Welcome to my lair, everybody. I'm Gabriel Flores, aka the one, the only, maybe Lee. I'm coming to you today through this episode here on YouTube to hopefully learn a little something and have some entertainment at the same time. I hope to achieve this by presenting two main points that I talk about. First, a personal thing from me, my story, and then I couple that with another topic. And I do research for this stuff if required, or I just gather my thoughts the morning of recording, and then at 4 o'clock every day we go ahead and record a 17-minute episode. The finale's coming up. Keep posted for that. I am going to have a timeline. I really want you guys to check back for the finale because it's going to be special. It's going to be a little higher learning type stuff, a wake-up moment or whatever. But it's going to carry some weight to it. So check back. It's going to be a really good one. Also, if you haven't already done so, go to my other videos here up on YouTube and check out my previous episodes. Let's go ahead and jump right in. I have the craziest list of funnest moments in my life, including hitting up the club, graduating A school and going to my first duty station, setting up in country, and first meeting my girlfriend. The funnest moments in my life. Basically, I'm just sharing unique stuff about myself, and this is one of those unique things. I kind of want to unravel some things about my life because I really want to get a good understanding of really the things that I really consider as good and the things that I really consider as bad. And it's hard to do when your life is intertwined in all of these institutions that they've created for us that hit us as soon as we're born. What it does is it masks all that stuff, and it makes it harder for you and for me to learn the truth about this life. And that's a bad thing about institutions, because you have good things mixed in with some bad institutions, and then you start saying, well, those are the funnest moments in my life. But war isn't fun. War is not fun. But on my list, I put setting up in country, which setting up in country is when I first got to Iraq. One of the funnest moments I had was getting to my hooch, the place where I lived, and building myself a desk so I could study on this custom-made desk, and then setting up my bed with the curtain so nobody, because I shared the room with more than one person, so setting up the curtain and building a little desk next to my bed so I could place my laptop on it as I'm laying in bed, and I could chat with my wife while I'm in country. And so that, as you can see, how an institution is bad because you're employing things that are fun to you in that scenario. And that's a big no-no right there, because war is not fun. But I have to include that on there because I had fun doing that. And so when you get back to country and back to reality, when you gather your summary of what war was like and why you joined, should you have joined, all your regrets and all that stuff, along with all those regrets, are the no-nos. And those are one of the no-nos when you have fun in something that's bad overall. War is bad overall. So there ain't no fun about that. So that's why I say I have the craziest list of funnest moments. It's just disappointing. This life as a whole, it's a disappointment. I could do way better than what I've seen so far. And, I've heard a lot of really smart stuff, but it's funny because this shit is whack as fuck. In my world, everybody would be happy. Everybody would have the stuff that they want, that they need. You wouldn't go without needing. You wouldn't go 3 years without having sex. For me, sex is good. It's a part of me. Why wouldn't sex be good? That's a part of my makeup. I haven't had sex for 3 years. In my world, that shit wouldn't fly. People would be happy where they're at. And God, he just ain't doing his job. If there's a God or whoever, where's he at? Because those good things in my life are missing. Um, and then, so that's why I call it crazy, crazy moments in my life. But some really pure good stuff. First meeting my girlfriend. That's the funnest moment because it was when I first met her, and it was exciting because how it happened. It just happened. Me and my friend, my best friend, my childhood best friend, uh, asked him for a cigarette. We smoked at the time, and they were outside, and we said, "Hey, do you have a cigarette?" And they were like, "Yeah, hold on, let me go in the house and grab one." We're like, "Okay." We walk up to the fence that separated their apartments from our neighborhood, chain link fence, and we stood there. And then they met up with us, and they gave us smoke. We smoked, and we talked for a long time. And it was so exciting because after that, I went home, and I just couldn't stop thinking about. I just met a chick who I talked with for a long time, and I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to talk to her again and take this further. I want to take this further immediately. Like that, I would have taken it further right then and there, but no. Again, God was missing. The faulty world, was present at that time. But in my perfect world, that funnest moment would have truly been a funnest moment had I fucked her that night. But I didn't. And so that's the faultiness of this world. I'm negative, but that's why I try to find some positive things in it too. But for the most part, it's bad. Everything is bad. Hitting up the club, I always had fun hitting up the club. It's always one of my funnest moments in my life. When me and my best friend Rigo would hit up the club on a weekend or whatever, I'd hit him up on the phone and be like, "Yo, what are you doing tonight? You want to hit up the club?" Or he would call me and say, "You want to hit up the club?" "Yeah, all right, we'll come over at so and so time." Be like, "All right, I'm in the shower right now. I'm getting ready to get in the shower. I'll roll over once I'm finished here." "All right, then, peace, peace." Then I get ready to go over there. We'd go hit up the club. We'd be just doing whatever. Usually have alcohol, any other substance that we wanted at the time, and stuff like that. I'm not going to go into detail into that because it's kind of counterintuitive. But I will say there were substances that we enjoyed that we wanted, and we were drinking alcohol, and then we would go to the club. And that's probably part of the funnest time, is actually driving to the club. Especially in his ride, because he had an SUV at the time with a badass system that had like 315s and 2 amplifiers, 6x9s, and the tweeters up front, and a DVD CD player deck, amplifier deck and shit. And we would just roll the windows down and bump the whole way up to the club, cruise down the street with our arms on the window, cruise right past the club, check out all the chicks that we could see, that we could find. Just flossing, just flossing. That's how you floss. And so that's how we flossed. And then of course we'd go into the club, and man, he had a bunch of money at the time. And I had money too, so I'd buy drinks here and there. But at the time, he had a lot of money, so he wasn't shy about spending it. He would drop couple bills easily on drinks for us, for the homeboys and shit. So that was tight. And we would just dance. I'd go out there and dance with just myself or a chick or whoever. I didn't really care. I'd just go out there and dance, and then walk around, go smoke on the smoke deck. And then afterwards was probably the funnest time too, leaving the club, where you have to drive real slow, and we would crank up the system to some sick ass shit we were bumping at the time, usually Kid Cudi or something like that, like King Wizard or something. King Wizard by Kid Cudi. and then bounce back to the crib and usually resume the festivities. But institutions are incapable of having funnest moments. Like an individual like myself can think back to a funnest moment, but an institution such as the United States of America, the government, the military particularly, is incapable of having funnest moments. But I do want to take a brief look at the historical timeline of war, um, because what you can do there, so the timeline is after we became a nation. And the reason why I want to do that is because even though the institution can't look back on and say this was a fun time for me because it's an institution, but what you can do is say, well, so you can't say the funnest time for America, I guess, but for America because you think of the government and military like that. But you can look at the times in between war and say these were the people in America were having the funnest times at this point in time because we all know war isn't fun. So based on that information, you can say, well, war was here and here, so right here is going to be the funnest moment. People nowadays are going to be thinking back mostly to those times, to the funnest moments in their lives, which are going to land approximately right here. And but institutions on another level of that, an institution fosters the funnest moments in different ways because people make up institutions and stuff like that. So even though the institution themselves, people make up an institution, and so the institution has to be a part of the funnest moments somehow. But the institution doesn't really have a brain unless somebody's keeping historical record of and stuff like that. Otherwise, you have to talk to a person to get the funnest moment. And I want to look at the timeline of war after we became a nation. Or actually, I want to give you a quote about war. Even before, because wars, we were waging wars before we even became a nation. And stuff like that. So this is a quote from there. It's from ThoughtCo. Is the webpage. The article is American Involvement in War from Colonial Times to the Present by Martin Kelly, written on August 29th, 2018 from thoughtco.com. Quote unquote, the first such war, sometimes called Metacom's Rebellion, lasted 14 months and destroyed 14 towns, quote unquote. I bring that up because it kind of displays the obviously why war is bad, but it gives you a little bit more insight into the truth and reality of that war isn't fun. Wow, it destroyed 14 towns in only 14 months. And stuff. That's not fun. No way. There's no way that could be fun. But you can be tricked by having fun stuff intertwined in there. And so people have to be aware of that stuff because don't feed the belly of the beast is all I'm saying. And but this article is cool because it substantiates my timeline of war, what I know in my mentals and stuff like that, and which I'll give to you in a minute. And then, but it also brings up a good point. We've had wars fought on American soil before, but it's been a long time since that's happened. And since we've had wars fought here on American soil, since then, since the last time that has happened, we've had a lot of wars that have been engaged overseas in other people's countries and stuff like that. But a brief timeline of war as I know it, from 1915 to 1918, World War One, World War Two, 1939 to 1945, the Korean Wars, around 1952, Vietnam around 1970s, 1971, 1972. That's Vietnam, and then Operation Desert Storm, 1991, and then which ended in 1991, and then the most recent one, OEF and OIF, from 2001 until present, which as of right now is the longest standing war we've been engaged in. The next in line, the next runner up is Vietnam. So that's an interesting fact. This is the longest war we've ever been engaged in. And so that's not good because as a nation, as an apparatus, from a future standpoint, it's going to be hard to tell when those good times were, when you have a war lasting for such a long period of time. Just from, a statistical standpoint, but people are still living back in the United States. They're going to still have some funnest moments in their life and stuff like that. But when you're in the future and you're trying to figure stuff out and you're saying, well, what was the nation going through at the time? Well, from here to here, it's going to be hard to it's going to be harder to identify the funnest moments as a nation for the people in the United States because of that, because of these long-lasting wars. In particular, what makes it shady is the war over there is intermittent, scattered, and confusing. It's bad all around. So, there's not good stuff. The minds of our time are doing a bad job, and they're not going to last as long as I have a say. But, it's something to think about, because when you say, well, what's the funnest moment in my life, and then let's try to think about this in a different way, and you think about America. Well, America is comprised of a government and a military. So can those things have funnest moments? Do they have histories and stuff like that? Just stuff to think about. Check in next time, guys. That's my historical timeline of war and the funnest moments in my life. See you later.